Ecowas Vision 2050 is articulated as a community of people, fully integrated in a peaceful and prosperous region, endowed with strong institutions and respectful of fundamental freedoms, while working for an inclusive and sustainable development. The vision is accompanied by the slogan, Ecowas of People, Peace and Prosperity for All. Ecowas Vision 2050 is based on 5 pillars, anchored on 5 strategic objectives and 16 strategic orientations, which are expected to contribute to the achievement of the long-term objectives of the region, in accordance with the aspirations of the citizens of West Africa. The pillars are peace, security and stability, governance and rule of law, economic integration and interconnectivity, transformation, inclusiveness and sustainable development, as well as social inclusion. This parliamentary seminar in Monrovia, Liberia, convened by the Parliament of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, focuses on discussing the theme ECOWAS Vision 2050, formulation process and the challenges of its implementation. The main objective of the seminar is to enable community parliamentarians take ownership of the ECOWAS Vision 2050, which was adopted on 12th December 2021 by the 60th Ordinary Session of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government in Abuja, Nigeria. The seminar opened with a ceremony that featured speeches from dignitaries including the representative of the President of the Republic of Liberia, Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Republic of Liberia, among others.
Mr. Speaker, I want to join all members of the ECOWAS Parliament to thank you for inviting our colleagues from Burkina Faso, from Mali, and from Guinea. Members of the ECOWAS Parliament represent the citizens of the community. And when the citizens are not represented through the MPs, there are problems. So we know that we are having some flight issues with the remaining MPs from Guinea and Mali that are expected in the next few days. But our colleagues from Burkina Faso are here. And I just want to, before I take my seat, ask you to please stand so that despite the military turbulence you have gone through, you've braved the storm as members of the ECOWAS Parliament representing the people of Burkina Faso.
As we are all human beings, humanity will be best served if our people's livelihood will be undisturbed. Our Constitution, the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia, has categorically stated or expressed that all citizens are entitled to political and social equality so as to avoid clashes and maintain peace and harmony. We must ensure that far or near, wherever injustice is, good men and women must rise up. War is not a choice. Dialogue is more constructive. Thus, I would say that we as human beings should not be quiet or silent. I want to thank our forebears and the crafters of our Constitution that have made peace and harmony as a capstone of the Liberian Constitution. I want to welcome all of you who have come here to ensure that we live peacefully as a people and that we serve humanity's best interests.
The Honorable Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament His Excellency Dr. Sidi Mohammed Tunis.
Our seminar is holding at a time when our region and the world at large is marked by the persistent health crisis linked to COVID-19, as well as constant threat to peace and security. We cannot deny the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic is not yet over, and as such, we must remain vigilant and anticipate the possible emergence of yet another variant, because this is the characteristics of any pandemic. However, it has been proven that vaccination contributes significantly to mitigation efforts. Fortunately, we see that hospitalizations and deaths resulting from COVID-19 have reduced significantly, as has the virulence of the disease. We are also confronted with challenges in our governance and security sectors, and it has become absolutely crucial that we deliberate candidly on the issues that threaten peace and democracy in the region. That is why we have dedicated the upcoming session to particularly discuss the political and security situation in the South region, and hopefully, at the end of the day, we should be able to build a broad-based consensus around the necessity to stamp out the menace of unconstitutional takeovers, terrorism, and insecurity. Excellencies, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are aware that to improve the quality of life of the people in our region to the level of our counterparts in the developed world, a framework that defines clearly where we are now as a region, where we want to be by 2050, and how to get there must be formulated. Visioning in this context means creating multiple alternative development strategies and integrated implementation approaches for reaching the goals of future regional development. It is expected that the vision will provide policy prescriptions to tackle the complex issues of our community, including education, science and technology, health and development, sustainable agriculture, peace and social justice, gender equality. The implementation of this vision entails contributions from all stakeholders and community institutions. This is why this sensitization seminar offers an opportunity to define a common strategy and to give guidance to our regional institutions, particularly to community parliament, in the framework of implementation of this Vision 2050. We are convinced that with a vision document that defines our regional priorities, we can make much progress in the areas of good governance, sustainable development, capacity enhancement, economic growth, and most importantly, peace and security.
The Ecowas Vision 2050 should not be yet another document kept in drawers and shelved in archives only for reference. You as members of Parliament must ensure that this document becomes a mechanism that can lead to the eradication of poverty and diseases while also addressing the issue of hunger among our people. Let me also avail myself this opportunity to further advise that if the attainment of the major objectives of the Vision 2050 and the anticipated strategic plan that will follow are to be realized, the Ecowas Commission and the Parliament, as well as other community institutions and agencies, would have to collaborate very closely. The mandate of the Ecowas institutions and agencies are closely linked. It is therefore unlikely that any of the institutions would achieve its objectives without the help of the other. I see these institutions as elements within the general Ecowas system. Avoiding interinstitutional wrangling and unnecessary disagreements would help boost the anticipated success of the Vision 2050 and hence lead to the benefits contained therein occurring to our people. In addition to this, for the Ecowas Parliament, collaboration with other parliaments, both within and outside the region, as well as globally recognized interparliamentary groups, will go a long way towards enhancing your performance. National parliaments of ECOWAS member states have a long-standing history. All of them were colonially created bodies, except for the intermittent military takeovers in most countries, which obstructed their paths to maturity. Despite that, they are today fully matured institutions with methods and procedures meant to cater for their representational needs. There is no doubt that this Parliament can leverage on their methods to fulfill its mandate and foster the early attainment of the Vision 2050. The same is applicable to parliaments outside the region, as well as interparliamentary bodies. Human challenges are not localized. They transcend geography, culture, and space. Our recent experience with COVID-19 pandemic and its economic aftermath is still fresh on our minds. Sharing of experiences and global best practices would undoubtedly promote success. Such parliamentary collaborations are the major working methods of contemporary institutions, and the ECOWAS Parliament must ensure it is not left out.
Proceedings at the seminar dovetailed into a session of presentations by the representatives of the ECOWAS Commission and experts on the ECOWAS Vision 2050. Presentations made include the pillars of Vision 2050, the objectives and strategic directions, the level of convergence between the ECOWAS Vision 2050, the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs by 2030, and the 2063 Agenda of the African Union.
Oversight is important for me because oversight is everything. Oversight will increase the buy-in by the people because the more you are accountable, the more people trust you. So how do you ensure key oversight in the process of implementing the vision? And how do you do that? In my view, is ensuring that there is adequate and appropriate allocation of resources and prioritization of activities, which means that you must be on top of the vision to know that the money we allocate as a community is going to the right priorities as agreed within the vision framework. This is key to ensuring that we do the right things. And also looking at the results, ensuring that we monitor, we evaluate the results to be sure that the results are in tandem with the approvals as well as the actions that we have all agreed to implement.
Which is indeed a transformational vision and which sets as its objective to have a borderless and peaceful as well as a prosperous and cohesive region which is founded on good governance, a region where the populations have capacity to access to the huge resources and use in order to achieve sustainable development. So, after 10 years of implementation, it has become necessary to conduct an assessment of that document, which is indeed a strategic document. So that assessment was requested for by Ecowas with financial support from the UN, in particular UNECA. So it is a document. It's a document which, in terms of implementation, we saw several instruments for operationalization, in particular the Community Development Program. And that Community Development Program is a document that pulls together priority projects and programs, and this with perfect coherence. But we also have the regional strategic plan, which the earlier speaker mentioned.
Strategic orientation, it is to enhance democratic governance, consolidate the rule of law and justice, promote respect for fundamental rights for all strata of the population. Third pillar is economic integration and interconnectivity. Because in fact we related economic integration and interconnectivity, we lumped them together, because in reality one of the major problems, one of the major challenges for our integration within the West African sub-region is the insufficiency of connection infrastructure or connectivity infrastructure. It is therefore important to link up the two to make of Ecowas a fully integrated economic area and fully interconnected. The physical networks of interconnection, that are the roads, the railways, the airlines. We see the difficulties that we face to go from Abidjan to Monrovia, and while Cote d'Ivoire and Liberia have borders together. So need for interconnectivity. And in terms of strategic orientation, the point is to precisely consolidate free movement, the free movement of peoples and goods, the free movement and peoples and goods, and speed up the integration of markets. That is the second strategic orientation. Speed up monetary union, economic integration, economic and financial integration. We talk in that context about the common currency, so we need to speed up the monetary and financial integration. And the third strategic orientation is to intensify the development of infrastructure and interconnectivity. The fourth pillar is the transformation and inclusive and sustainable development that we also find in all member states of ECOWAS. The need for structural transformation, the need for inclusive and sustainable development. The strategic objective is to create the conditions for the transformation of our economies and for the sustainable well-being of our populations. There are four strategic orientations. First, ensure human and social development. Secondly, develop human capital and enhance knowledge. Three, enhance environmental sustainability and the fight against climate change. And four, encourage growth.
The presentations were put to debate and discussions by members of parliament, during which several concerns were raised, especially on the need for the political will by heads of member states to implement the vision and learn from the failures of the previous Vision 2020.
The Parliament of that is supposed to be the most representative of the structures of governance. And if this is the Parliament of the African and West African sub-region, it will be expected that there will be more involvement of this Parliament if we want the public to take greater ownership of the vision, which, as far as I'm concerned, is still very doubtful. Also, the pillar 2 of the Vision 2050, which talks about building institutional capacity, is an indication that we really don't have an answer to this very critical problem. For example, in most of our countries today, the capacity of most of the institutions are getting weaker. Are we talking about the security institutions? Are we talking about the educational institutions? Are we talking about these institutions that are responsible for dispensation of justice? We're having a situation where we're even losing it talking about democracy. We have people, ambitious persons in the military toppling legitimate government in West African countries, and we are sort of helpless in trying to abate this problem. So unless we frontally address the issue of our lack of willpower, and I agree that the failure that we had in accomplishing Vision 2020 are failures that are still there. Whatever we discuss about Vision 2050 will just be a mere academic exercise.
We come from various countries, representing all countries, and we are in our numbers. We are in our numbers. Why can't we take decisions according to what we discuss and what we think is the best for us? I am saying this, Mr. Speaker, because I've observed that even our expenditure, we have a body that has to agree to the fact that we should spend A, B, or C, which has become a problem. Mr. Speaker, I've also observed with keen interest that the very first achievement that we need is the issue of peace and security in our region, which is the first that every single human being needs. But we have almost been short of that. Although we'll be discussing it next week, but something has come up here. Is it because the laws that Parliament has put in place in the past is not holding firm, or it's not being implemented, or nobody cares about what Parliament says? Then there is a weakness there, and we need to look at it.
The executive branch of government comes to Parliament to defend the budget. We are practicing in the Ecowas Parliament, we are practicing the reverse. So how do we expect the Parliament to provide quality oversight when the Parliament itself seems to me, and forgive my language, seems to me like a put down. We don't have the powers. How do we provide oversight? We have audit reports that are stockpiled at the Commission, that the Parliament cannot take hold of it because of the sea power play. So he talked about coordination, finally to close. He talked about coordination. That one of the issues that he had with Vision 2020 was the issue of coordination. We are beginning Vision 2050. How involved are the stakeholders, our traditional leaders, our civil society organizations, our different citizen groups? If they are not involved at this stage, I bet we will go 50 years, 30 years, the next generation of Ecowas citizens will be in the same room we are in and will be discussing how the Vision 2050 was not achieved.
That if they can impress it on the head of governments, that we should have the regional activities implementation ministry in each of the country. That, and they will be, the minister will be a cabinet minister. They will always be there when they are discussing policies, local policies. Now check it with the regional policies and see how we can come up with an implementation of the regional policies that will be accommodated by the local policies. That's my suggestion.
In terms of MA, we have visionary leaders. So what is the challenge? Why is it that up to now we're not achieved? What is new in this challenge? What is new in this vision that civil trade did not see? That will stand the common did not speak against or of? What is new? What is there in Africa that we get achieved what we intend to? We have become so academic and theoretical. I think it's our time, Mr. Speaker, that no, let's not be academic, let me real ourselves. My colleague will remember to get one classic example issue of the currency. Africa, EU has makes an achievement. You got euro.
In the light of presentations, discussions, and contributions, parliamentarians at the seminar formulated recommendations which captured the roles and responsibilities of ECOWAS member states, the ECOWAS Commission, and the Community Parliament.
To the ECOWAS Parliament. Item 14, ensure within the framework of its oversight function the effective supervision of the implementation of Vision 2050 by establishing an internal monitoring framework and transmission of the results of this supervision to the organs of the community. 15, adopt its strategic plan to a new community vision and develop a parliamentary action plan in conformity with the pillars and objectives of the Ecowas Vision 2050. 16, support the advocacy campaign for inclusive ownership of Vision 2050 by the West African populations through information and sensitization missions. 17, ensure that appropriate and adequate budgetary resources are allocated to the agreed priorities under the Vision 2050.
Speaker Sidi Mohammed Tunis closed proceedings with a remark highlighting the resolve of Parliament to promote the actualization of the objectives of the vision for the good of the citizens of the community.
As honorable members of Parliament from all member states, I will expect that when you return home, we will do everything possible to ensure that these documents are presented to our national parliaments. Because it is very important that we domesticate the document. That is the only way we are actually going to have the effect of it, not the ECOWAS Parliament. We can be used as conduits for that. I want to reiterate the full commitment of the ECOWAS Parliament to throw its weight behind the achievement of Vision 2050. We will coordinate with the Commission, we will coordinate with member states, and we are also going to ensure that for the next 2 years, while this legislature will be in office, we will use Vision 2050 as part of our programs. So every country we go, there will be a program on Vision 2050.